Hey everyone, welcome back. So I thought I would do something a little bit different here and make a couple videos this week for you, starting with this one that might be a little more philosophical, a little less about psychedelics, a little less about strictly personal development skills or techniques, coaching conversations, a little more broad, a little more philosophical, like I said, exploring a couple important ideas that I think might be helpful for some of you out there, and I think are just kind of worth putting out into the collective consciousness. So for today's video, this is really something I just kind of came up with off the top of my head during my walk today. I was enjoying a really nice, beautiful, sunny day here, and took a nice long walk in the park. I'm working on getting more steps in throughout my day, just getting more exercise through movement, and it affords me a lot of time to self-reflect. And I was thinking about some of the recent interactions I've had, and some of what it is that I would like to say to people around depression and happiness, because I think this is one of those classic kind of topics where there's a lot of misconceptions in my experience, and there's a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of kind of emotional, very young, immature thinking out there. And by immature, I mean coming from an immature, younger aspect of ourselves. Not necessarily a judgment on anyone per se, but just we often have these beliefs about happiness and depression that are formed out of very young ways of being inside of ourselves. So I thought today it might be kind of interesting just to kind of give you my own perspective, having moved through depression and having really developed more of a capacity to access happiness inside of myself, to share what I'd learned about that along the way, in case this might be useful for any of you out there. So today's video is going to be on what is the opposite of depression, and what defines happiness, and is happiness the opposite of depression? So I guess with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Yeah, so like I was saying, this is something I was just kind of pondering on my walk today. I was thinking about what is the opposite of depression. I wasn't thinking about it in terms of needing to really define it for myself, but more something, that I could maybe hand to clients of mine, people I'm working with, people in my group coaching, or even just here on the channel, to try to articulate more what my understanding of depression is, of what happiness is, because there's kind of this very common belief system out there that the opposite of depression is happiness, and that when I am no longer depressed, I will be happy, right? This is kind of what people who generally are dealing with depression kind of are presupposing and assuming, and kind of what they want, or maybe what they think will be the outcome or the thing that they're working towards, some sort of lasting happiness in life, right? And as you know, since this channel, we talk about psychedelics a lot. Psychedelics kind of have taught me a lot about this. And here's kind of my sense of it. So the first thing off the bat that I want to say is I don't think that the opposite of depression is happiness necessarily. I think that that's a flawed way of thinking about it, maybe an overly simplistic, overly binary way of thinking about it. And I want to try to give you a better understanding of what I think the opposite of depression is in my experience. Now, I think it's really important to kind of acknowledge and say for anyone watching this out there, that depression is a huge, probably umbrella term for a lot of different experiences that fall underneath it that may range in terms of cause, right? So there may be a lot of different experiences and different causes to these different types of experiences that we're kind of all clustering together with this kind of vague, broad, descriptive term called depression, right? So when I'm talking about depression, it may not be what you're experiencing. It may not be what you know as depression. Like, we may be kind of missing each other a little bit with such a broad term. That's part of the risk of using a familiar but kind of vague descriptor like depression. So just want to kind of caveat what I'm about to say with acknowledging that's, just because I'm using this term doesn't mean we're necessarily on exactly the same track. But okay, I'm rambling. Let me get to the point here. What is the opposite of depression? In my opinion, I would think, and I do think, that it's feeling. That the opposite of depression isn't happiness. It's not elation. It's not being in ecstasy all the time. It's feeling. It's allowing yourself, it's allowing the world in, allowing your emotions to be felt and experienced and move, allowing the sensations around you, the life experience around you to move you, to fill you up with sensation and response and aliveness. I think that that's the opposite of depression. If depression is numbness, demotivation, loss of valuing anything, loss of meaning, then the opposite is of course going to be feeling sensitive, feeling alive, feeling like things are deeply meaningful, feeling connected to a sense of meaning in life. Now, there's no way to have those outcomes without allowing yourself to feel. And I think that really this means allowing yourself to feel the full palette of feelings, the full range of feelings. I'm sure some of you have heard out there the idea that you can't just suppress feelings, that you can't suppress just specific feelings. So if I just try to suppress sadness or pain or fear, and my brain does a good job of it, let's say I'm successful and I'm able to turn down the dial on those particular emotions, I will also be turning down the dial on feeling altogether. And, I've described recently in other videos, I don't know if those were privately to my group or here on the channel, more about what I think depression is in general, which is an overall injury to our ability to feel and value and care about something. So when something we care about starts to be important to us and that relationship gets injured, what we care about gets injured in our experience, and it becomes painful to continue to care about that person or experience or thing or abstract concept. And it becomes painful enough. I think what happens is our brain turns down the volume on feeling altogether, and we end up with depression. So it's kind of a loss of our value system. It's a loss of orientation towards meaning. It's a loss of being willing to feel, to be open, probably at an unconscious level. I don't think most people consciously make that choice, although I'm sure that happens too. So I think the opposite of, depression is feeling. And that might mean in order to regain your capacity to not be depressed, and to feel great heights of ecstasy and joy and bliss and amusement and fulfillment and meaning and profundity, which I think are so fucking worth suffering for. Those feelings are so good. Like if you really feel life at a profound level, or you feel joy at a profound level, or even humor and levity at a profound level, I think that makes it worth whatever pain you encounter and whatever pain you might experience. But let's just say that, that's the antidote to depression is feeling. And let's just say that in order to get those feelings, those positive feelings back, you may have to embrace feeling some negative emotions and negative experiences up front to process through, because maybe there's something kind of clogging the pipes of your capacity for feeling in general. Right. So that's the first point I want to make in this video. And then the other point I want to make was what I think creates happiness. Because again, I'm starting this video. I made this video based on the assumption and on the notion that there are a lot of people out there who kind of equate depression as being not happy, and that they want to feel more happy in life. And therefore, when they've healed their depression, they will feel happy, which I think is a flawed assumption and a flawed kind of equation of thinking, if you will. But if you want to feel happy, if that's really what you're after, that's really what's important to you, what's, meaningful, or just something you would like to experience more of because maybe it's unfamiliar to you. Maybe you haven't had enough happiness in your life and you want to fill that cup up more. Here's what I think creates happiness. And this is something that psychedelics have shown me a lot, but it's also something that the more I reflect on the happiest moments of my life, whether those were in childhood or my teenage years, my 20s, 30s, and now into my 40s, the moments that bring me the deepest happiness. I've really looked at what it is that is the common denominator, the common factor. And here's what I think it is. A lot of people think it's getting your material desires fulfilled. A lot of people think it's about having a relationship or being validated or, getting what you always wanted, which is kind of what I just said, or something like that, right? That it's about getting. Now, I don't think happiness is necessarily about getting, and I don't think it's necessarily about giving either, although those can both be really fulfilling, enjoyable experiences. I think happiness comes when we're present. I think happiness comes when we have one of those moments where we are totally present and in the moment in life, no matter what it is we're doing. It could be something as simple as laying on the grass in the sun or taking a walk in a park. It could be being at your favorite concert and really being engaged. It could be having a great conversation with somebody. It could be watching a movie that you're engrossed in. But I'm going to submit the idea to you that, it's about presence. That what determines whether or not you are happy in a given moment isn't about what you have. It's about how present are you with the moment. And when you're really, really fully present for whatever reason, and maybe nothing's going on, or maybe it's a really busy, hectic, wild, complicated, complex moment, I don't think it matters as long as you're fully present with it. And it's that presence that really brings that moment of fulfillment and happiness. If we're too lost in thought, if we're too disconnected or dissociated or too much on autopilot, we tend not to experience happiness. If we are too, busy worrying about the future, hung up about the past, kind of drawing from the cliches of Buddhism here, but it's true that when our mind are in those places, we're generally not really engaged in the moment. Because of that, we're generally not very fulfilled. We're either worried or we're kind of longing or something else other than just being really here. Over and over and over, when I've found myself deeply fulfilled, it's because I'm fully present. Whether it's, again, walking in the park like I was earlier today, whether it is in a flow state, say when I was, when I'd be playing an instrument with some friends, whether that would be, at a music event where I was super immersed in the moment, or in a really beautiful, deep conversation with a friend where I was really immersed in the moment, the common denominator, no matter what age, is the amount of presence and engagement and connection to the moment I was experiencing. So I'm going to just kind of maybe offer these last couple ideas and we'll wrap the video here. That first of all, the opposite of depression isn't happiness necessarily. The opposite of depression is feeling, is allowing yourself to be vivified by fully being embodied with your senses and feeling deeply. That's opposite of depression. And what does create happiness is being super present to the moment, in the moment, absorbed, engaged, connected to the moment. Even if there's nothing going on. Even if, like right now, I'm sitting in my room talking to a little webcam to make a YouTube video for you, not thinking about what I'm going to say. Everything's quiet. It's kind of a boring moment on a Sunday, but it feels beautiful to me because I'm present in it. Now, there's a connection here, obviously, between presence and feeling, because it's hard to be really present if we're not feeling. It's also can be the opposite, that if we are too swept away in feeling, it can be hard to be present. So there's a sweet spot there that we want to hit of being able to be fully present in the moment, fully engaged, connected, and feeling the moment, but not feeling so much that it dysregulates us and kind of knocks us out of our center and we're not able to be present. Because usually those types of feelings lead us away from happiness. Let's be honest. If we're that destabilized by feeling, then that can kind of lead you away from happiness. So so maybe that's what you want to be shooting for here, right? Maybe this is kind of a goal to work towards as a skill. It's finding that really nice middle spot between feeling and presence where you have a really deep capacity for both. And I'm going to argue that if you are really good at being in touch with your feeling and in touch with your senses, feeling really alive, and you're really good at being present and engaged, that probably the chances are you don't have depression. So let's leave it there. And let me know what you think. Again, this is kind of just a philosophical, little bit of a riff based on something I was thinking about earlier today. Thought I'd share it with you guys. So if you like this kind of thing, if you agree, if you disagree, please do me a favor, leave a comment down below. I'd love to just engage with you. And I hope you're doing well wherever you are, day or night, whenever you're watching this. I hope this message reaches you in good health and good happiness and good well-being. And I got more on the way for you. So thanks for watching, and big love, big respect to you all, whoever you are. Take care.